Shalom, shalom. Davon Mays here, and today we're going to be talking about Daniel warned us about Christianity. This will be part one, so we're going to jump right into this. Daniel warned us about Christianity. Daniel 7:25. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints of the Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his hands for a time and times and half a time. This verse is so potent with what I'm about to show y'all. So let's go. BC, AD, in Rome. The term BC and AD are common terms among historians when talking about dates. You can go to the Britannica, put the link in the description, or I'm sorry, the link right here in the PowerPoint. What do these terms mean, and when did they come into use? So, in history of Europe chronology, from the birth of Jesus, Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord, which formed the basis of the modern notion of the Common Era, the new method superseded older traditions, which included dating by 4-year Olympiads by the number of years since the founding of Rome in 753 BCE. We see Rome is in the conversation. Not my opinion. This is the Britannica talking. So, what does Daniel tell us? The fact that time is now referred to with the mention of Jesus is significant. BC obviously is before Christ, right? This is a change that has been noted for centuries, and Daniel clearly told us what to expect because we see in the Tanakh, all the messiahs in the Tanakh, which are Christ's, it just means anointed, the date was not a factor in talking about when the king was born. Nobody says David was born BC this, or Solomon was born BC that, or anything else happened in Jewish history BC that, or before David was born, or any other Messiah, any of the priests that were messiahs. This dating system did not exist the way it does now, referring to when Jesus was born. This has Rome written all over it. Why do I say this? Daniel 7:25. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, shall persecute the saints of the Most High, and shall intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his hands for a time and times and a half time. So, who spoke pompous words against the Most High? Let's start there. This is a story from the Talmud concerning Titus speaking against the God of Israel. In Gittin 56b, you can look this up on Sepharia.org. Vespasian went back to Rome and sent Titus in his place. The Gemara cites a verse that was expounded as referring to Titus. And he shall say, where is their God, their rock in whom they trusted? Deuteronomy 32:37. This is the wicked Titus who insulted and blasphemed God on high. Where he spoke pompous words against the Most High, like Daniel says, right? It is further related about Titus that he was once traveling at sea and a wave arose up against him and threatened to drown him. Titus said, it seems to me that their God, the God of Israel, has power only in water. Pharaoh rose against them and he drowned them in water. Sisera rose against them and he drowned him in water. Here too, he has risen up against me to drown me in water. If he is really mighty, let him go on dry land and there wage war against me. Divine voice was issued forth and said to him, wicked one, son of a wicked one, grandson of Esau the wicked, for you are among his descendants and act just like him. I have a lowly creature in my world, and it is called a gnat. Very interesting. So Titus is basically waging war against God. And God says, you know what? I got something for you. A lowly creature called a gnat. You know how big a gnat is? The Gemara interjects, why is it called a lowly creature? It is called this because it has an entrance for taking in food, but it does not have an exit for excretion. The Gemara resumes its story about Titus. The divine voice continued, go up on dry land and make war with it. He went up on dry land, and a gnat came, entered his nostril, and picked at his brain for 7 years. Titus suffered greatly from this until one day he passed by the gate of a blacksmith's shop. The gnat heard the sound of a hammer and was silent and still. Titus said, I see there is a remedy for my pain. Every day they would bring a blacksmith who hammered before him. He would give 4 deniers as payment to a Gentile blacksmith. And to a Jew, he would simply say, it is enough for you that you see your enemy in so much pain. He did this for 30 days, and it was effective until then. From that point forward, since the gnat became accustomed to the hammering, it became accustomed to it. And once again, it began to pick away at Titus's brain. It is taught in a Baraita that Rabbi Phineas ben Arova said, I was at the time among the noblemen of Rome, and when Titus died, they split open his head and found that the gnat had grown to the size of a sparrow weighing 2 selah. It was taught in another Baraita, it was like a 1-year-old pigeon weighing 2 litra. So this little tiny gnat became the size of like a small bird. So we see how Titus ended when he had words against the Most High, and the Most High sent a tiny gnat to basically torture him. Went up his nose. It's probably so irritating. So irritating. Abaya said, we have a tradition that its mouth was made of copper and its claws were fashioned of iron. When Titus was dying, he said to his attendants, burn that man, i.e. me, and scatter his ashes across the 7 seas, so that the God of the Jews should not find me and stand me for judgment. So basically, he didn't want to deal with the afterlife. He was like, if he's doing this to me now, I don't want him to find me, because I'm not going to be able to stand in front of him. So now he's worried, right? Well, it's kind of too late. He should have repented. So he shall speak pompous words against the Most High. We see Titus the Roman spoke against the Most High. Now I will show you how Paul influenced the Christians to change the times and the law of the Tanakh. To the weak and beggarly elements, Galatians 4:9-11. But now, after you have known God, or rather are known by God, how is it that you turn again to the weak and beggarly elements to which you desire again to be in bondage? You observe days and months and seasons and years. I am afraid for you, lest I have labored for you in vain. So Paul's talking to people saying, you're observing days, months, and seasons and years, or you can say Jewish holidays. But why does he call them weak and beggarly elements? Barnes Notes on the Bible says, Galatians 4:9, to the weak and beggarly elements, to the rites and ceremonies of the Jewish law, imposing a servitude really not less severe than the customs of paganism. Basically, he's saying, why are you observing these Jewish laws? You left paganism's laws and customs, but now you just want to pick up the Jewish laws. But he calls them weak and beggarly elements. If Paul was a Pharisee, did he really think that these Jewish rites and ceremonies were weak and beggarly? If he was a Pharisee of Pharisees, like the books claim? Let's see. These are the feasts of the Lord. Jewish law is comprised of rites and ceremonies based on a calendar and time schedule. Exodus 12:2. This month shall be your beginning of the months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So one of the first commandments Israel was given when they came up out of Egypt is they were given a calendar in order to know when they were to celebrate their feasts. Leviticus 23:4. These are the feasts of the Lord, holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at their appointed times. So this calendar is how they would know their appointed times. Paul's saying these are weak and beggarly elements. But does he stand on that? He says it, but does he stand on that? The law is holy and the commandment holy and just and good. So Paul speaks against this calendar by saying, how is it that you turn again to the weak and beggarly elements to which you desire again to be in bondage? He's calling the Torah bondage, right? These rites and ceremonies, this is bondage. In Galatians, the law is weak and beggarly, but in Romans, the law is holy, righteous, and good. So how is it both? Romans 7:12. Therefore, the law is holy, and the commandment holy and just and good. Again, we see the book of Hebrews calling the commandments weak and useless, but Paul telling us that there's righteousness in the law, right? So when you see when you read the book of Hebrews, and I've gone on this, so many videos, we know the book of Hebrews says the Torah needed to be changed, and there needs to be an annulling of the law. But here in the book of Romans, we see the law is holy, just, and good. So why would he call it weak and beggarly to the Galatians, but to the Romans, he's got a different attitude? This looks like he's double-minded, right? An annulling of the former commandment, Hebrews 7:18. For on the one hand, there is an annulling of the former commandment because of its weakness and unprofitableness. So to the Galatians, it's weak and beggarly. To the Romans, it's holy, just, and good. In the book of Hebrews, it's weak and unprofitable. Now, there's an argument if Paul actually wrote Romans. I mean, not Romans, but the book of Hebrews. We know he wrote Romans, but the book of Hebrews, it's kind of up for debate, right? But so what does Jesus say about this, this opinion concerning the law? So how is the law unprofitable when Jesus told the lawyer it is how to attain eternal life? In Luke 10:25-28, the lawyer asked him, what must I do to attain eternal life? And Jesus says, what's written in the law? He quotes the law. He said, do this and you will live. Philippians 3:6, concerning zeal, persecuting the church, concerning the righteousness which is in the law, blameless. So Paul's telling us that when he observed the law, he was blameless. So how is that weak and unprofitable? And how is that a beggarly element? So we see that Daniel brought up somebody's going to intend to change times and laws. Paul in Galatians wants you away from these rites and ceremonies, which is time-based because it's the appointed times that we read in Leviticus 23, and changing of the law by calling it weak and useless. He's trying to get rid of it. That's changing the law. And doesn't the book of Hebrews say to change the law in Hebrews 7:12? The righteousness which is of the law, Romans 10:5. For Moses writes about the righteousness which is of the law. The man who does those things shall live by them. How is that weak and unprofitable if you can live by keeping the law? So we see Paul is double-minded. Depending on who he's talking to, he has a different opinion concerning the law and the times. They belong to the lowest section of Christian practice. Ellicott's commentary for English readers, Galatians 4:10. As to the bearing of this passage on the general question of the observance of seasons or appointed times, it is to be noticed that the reference here is to the adoption by the Galatians of the Jewish seasons as a mark of the extent to which they were prepared to take on themselves the burden of the Mosaic law. We know the New Testament says the commandments are not burdensome. We know it says this. It does not necessarily follow that the observance of Christian seasons is condemned. At the same time, it is quite clear that St. Paul places all such matters under the head of elements or rudiments. They belong to the lowest section of Christian practice, and the more advanced a Christian is, the less he needs to be bound by them. So the more Christian you are, the more weak and beggarly the Torah is. So it's interesting. There's a verse that says, the the law was created for the wicked. Is that true? Have you read Psalm 119? Does it tell you that the law was created for the wicked? Or that the law gives you a reward? Do the wicked deserve a reward? Think about that. Let no one judge you. Colossians 2:16. So let no one judge you in food or in drink or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths, appointed times again. New moons and Sabbaths are timekeeping tools Paul calls weak and are a burden. But 1 John 5:3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. So what's going on? Why does Paul call something weak and beggarly and weak and useless if he wrote Hebrews? But John says the commandments are not a burden. And if you love God, you got to keep his commandments. When the lawyer asked Jesus, how do I get eternal life? Keep the commandments. Not a word against, oh, that's weak and beggarly, and we don't have to do that no more. Replacement theology. This is what it is. These verses allude to the breaking away from the traditional calendar and set times found in the law of Moses. The Christians relied heavily upon the Hebrew calendar for their made-up holidays. Example, Easter replaced Passover. But what day did it fall on? The Gregorian calendar and the Hebrew calendar are not exactly coordinated, so asking the Jews what day Passover was on year after year became something to be avoided by the church, so they needed a solution. They also did not want the responsibility of the law that produced the blessings given to Israel, but they wanted to replace Israel. This is replacement theology because Esau wants his birthright back. We see Titus was a descendant of Esau. Titus was a Roman. The Christians became Roman. The Holy Roman Empire was Christian from like the 4th century time frame. That's kind of when they, Council of Nicaea, all that kind of took place. And the Catholic Church is very Roman. Listen to their songs. Do you understand them? If you ever watch The Omen, you listen to the music. What are they singing? What language are they singing those songs in? The scary music. You know what I'm talking about? So much Latin going on. What did they write King of the Jews in? Greek, Hebrew, and Latin, or Aramaic, Hebrew, whatever, but Latin's in there. So this is part 1 of Daniel warned us about Christianity. Who would think to change times and laws? Well, we see this put at the feet of Paul. And Paul was a Roman. Isn't that what the book of Acts tells us? So this is part 1. I hope you learned something, and we will see you next time. Shalom.